What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. So Manchester United advanced once again in the FA Cup against West Ham. We ended up winning 1-0. It was a very boring 1-0, and we'll get to what I thought about the game, what I thought about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and what I thought about the players in just a second. Just so you know, this is a brand new YouTube channel. This is only my second video, so definitely do subscribe to the channel. Definitely hit the bell so that way you're notified anytime I put up a new video or if I ever go live, which will be happening a lot more once I get this audience built and I get the channel more established. So definitely do check out that all as well, and make sure you do those things. That would be greatly appreciated. If not, still just give me a chance and I'm sure I'll win you over and you'll end up subscribing soon enough. So in terms of the game today, it was a snooze fest. It was boring. And I'm not saying that to slate Manchester United players or to slate Ollie, but that's just the truth. It was boring. And part of the blame has to go to Ollie, but you also have to be reasonable and say part of the reason that it was boring was just because it was our B-side for the most part. Now, obviously, there are some starters in that mix, but for the most part, it was our B-side. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt that we were somewhat boring in terms of our build-up. You don't necessarily expect our bench to come out there and play scintillating, sizzling football. Now, should they still be able to play some of that? Sure. And I thought in patches in the first half, I thought there were some good patterns of play. I thought we did create some good chances in the first half. I felt like we probably still should have been up 1-0 by halftime. I think I had counted about 3 or 4 good chances. Now, albeit one was basically off of just a cross into the box that Harry Maguire got his head on, and it was well saved by Fabianski. But it's still a great chance. And with our B-side, those are the types of chances that you really have to capitalize on because you don't know how many Class A chances you're going to get for the rest of the game, especially against a good defensive side like West Ham. Because West Ham, let's be real here, they came and parked the bus and played boring. But at the same time, despite the fact that they almost created nothing all game, which I have to give our defense credit for, because I always have been slating Maguire and Lindelof, and I don't trust them as a partnership whatsoever. I still don't trust them as a partnership. But today, I'll give it to them. We played a higher line a lot of the time when we were in the attack, and West Ham really weren't able to take advantage of it, and they barely created anything except for there was one chance towards the very end of the game where Benrahma ended up getting a header right in front of the net. Like, he was probably only a couple of yards out, and I couldn't believe that nobody had picked him up. He just drifted right in there, walked right in. And that type of defending has to stop because that's far too often how we end up giving up a goal is that we just leave somebody open in the box. We just don't mark them. Or we're marking them at first and we get distracted, or we get sucked into a different player that's moving into the box, or sucked into where the cross is going if we think it's going more towards the center of the box. You'll see Wan-Bissaka suck in all the time. And part of that, I think, is because Wan-Bissaka doesn't trust our center backs either to actually clear the danger, so he gets sucked in because he's nervous and isn't actually... It's almost like when you're driving, when you're riding shotgun in a car, and you go and press your foot down on the floor when somebody else should be braking, or you feel like somebody else should be braking. That's kind of how I feel Aaron Wan-Bissaka gets when he has to go and get sucked in closer to the middle of the box, because sometimes he'll almost be near the penalty spot, and I think that's because he just doesn't trust that Lindelof and Maguire are actually going to clear the danger. Part of it may be actually that Ollie tells him to do that as well, because he doesn't trust that center-back partnership to actually be able to clear the danger in the middle of the box as well. So there are different factors and different explanations for why that happens a lot, but no matter what the case is, it wasn't Wan-Bissaka's fault today in terms of Benrahma drifting into the box there, and we didn't give up a goal, so it's not the end of the world, but we can't be defending like that. That type of defending will cost us games. It's just the same old thing. People whip balls into the box, and what ends up happening? There's somebody wide open. Why? Why are our center backs and our defenders, and even our midfielders at times, not tracking their runners, not marking their man, not being aware of where the ball could be going, and not being aware of who has space inside of the box? That should be their number one priority down there. And that's why we end up giving up so many cheap goals. I mean, how many stupid goals have you seen Manchester United concede this season, especially with the Lindelof-Maguire partnership, where it's just some dumb ball into the box that you would never even expect to end up turning into a dangerous situation, and it turns out to be a deadly situation. And it's happened far too often and like I said, the main suspects of that are Maguire and Lindelof. But Wan-Bissaka, whether it's due to Maguire and Lindelof being suspect with that, or whether it's because Ali's telling him to do that because he's worried about Lindelof and Maguire, either way, that's clearly a problem. And Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, and Maguire have all been at fault for falling asleep on balls into the box this season that very well could have turned into goals or did turn into goals, and some of them were extremely costly, such as RB Leipzig is one off the top of my head that I can think of. And like I said, that West Ham chance that Benrahma had today, if one of our Manchester United players had that chance, if that chance fell to Martial, we would have been angry with Martial if he didn't make that. That was only a few yards out. That really should have been a goal for West Ham, and we were lucky that he didn't get a hold of it the way that he needed to. And it turned out to be an easy save for Dean Henderson in the end, and we're able to take a deep breath and move on. But that's consistently a problem, that you see people just whip what should be, I don't want to say easy balls to deal with into the box, but stuff that should be dealt with a good defense. And you constantly just see people wide open. And it's just unacceptable that we're leaving people open in the box. That's a number one way for us to just keep shipping cheap goals and throwing our season away and throwing what success is possible out of this season out the window. Because if we do that in Europa League, especially when we get into the later stages of that Europa League tournament, when we get into the later stages of the FA Cup tournament, one time falling asleep like that, and that could end up being us out of the tournament altogether. So we really have to fix that. I know Benrahma didn't score today. I know we won, but it is a serious issue that I'm very much tired of. And I think Lindelof and Maguire are more at fault than Wan-Bissaka, because despite the fact that Wan-Bissaka does that a lot, I think there's an underlying reason why he's doing that. Whether it's Ali not trusting the center back pairing to be able to clear the danger, or whether it's Wan-Bissaka himself just feeling like he can't trust the center back pairing to clear the danger. And then he ends up getting sucked in, and what ends up happening a lot of the times is we have the far post exposed that Wan-Bissaka should be covering. Today, it was just our center backs fell asleep and let Benrahma just sit right in a pocket of space in front of the goal. Luckily, Benrahma waffled on the opportunity, and we lived to see another day, and we advanced. But outside of that, I thought our defense played very well. I don't want to harp on the Benrahma chance forever, but it is just a frustrating thing that I see time and time again. And yes, our defense outside of that, in the times that we played a high line, didn't look super vulnerable. We're able to clean up the danger. Midfield in the first half, I thought really struggled to really get a hold of the game. Yeah, we had a lot of possession, but it was empty possession. It was passing sideways. It was passing backwards. It was just recirculating, running out of options, so maybe just frustratedly just whipping across into the box, or just getting frustrated and trying to chip over the back line of the defense. It just wasn't fluid, and it wasn't dangerous at all. I think West Ham were very comfortable defending against us, bar maybe tops 2 or 3 opportunities that we were able to get in dangerous positions around the box and almost capitalize. But even in those opportunities that we had, especially in the first half, West Ham were very good defensively. They did nothing on offense, but defensively they were very rigid. They were very well structured. They hustled. And a lot of times when we finally seemed like we had a good opportunity to score, a West Ham player would end up getting his body in the way, or Fabianski would make a great save. And it was frustrating, and it started to seem like we just weren't going to be able to score this game. It just felt like that type of game. It felt like there's a little bit of a malaise going on, where even on the opportunities that we did have, there were more half chances, and then even when we got really good chances, especially like the Rashford one in the second half, they amounted to nothing, and we weren't able to capitalize. So once it got around the 75th minute mark, I was like, I just don't see us scoring an open play today. I think we either have to hope for a penalty, a free kick, or maybe we do still get a moment of brilliance out of this, or we end up going to penalties after extra time. And we ended up getting into extra time, still 0-0. And luckily, we're able to actually create a chance. Scott McTominay finished beautifully. And Scott McTominay deserves a lot of credit, because he really helped turn the game around in terms of us being more aggressive and on the front foot, and actually being able to create more, especially in extra time, compared to how we were in the first half and even in the second half. Because for as mediocre as I thought we were in the first half, I thought we were even worse in terms of our creation and how dangerous we looked in that second half. It felt flat, and it felt like, yeah, created some half chances, but it wasn't nearly a dominant performance in terms of our attacking play. Luckily, our defense held well. We were solid. We were able to win the ball back a lot. We didn't allow West Ham to have too many good chances, if any good chances at all, outside of the Benrahma header. And yeah, it was a solid win. That's the best way I can say it. I'm not jumping off the rooftops today saying, you know what, this is awful, this is a disgrace, and I'm not shouting from the rooftops saying that this is a fantastic victory and that we were brilliant today. It was just a middle of the road. We played well enough to win. We defended well enough to keep a clean sheet. And we move on to see another day. And that's all we can ask for at this point in terms of the FA Cup. Let's just keep moving on. Let's get to another semifinal, and let's actually win the semifinal this time. I just wanted to touch on a couple players that I am still a little bit concerned about their performances. Martial, easily one of my favorite players ever since he's been at the club. He's been one of my favorite players, and I think he has a lot of talent there. But his finishing has just been atrocious this season in particular. And I think a lot of people will remember this when I bring this up. Martial used to be the guy where you would be able to count on him to finish his chances. If he got a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, you knew Martial was going to be clinical. And Rashford was more the one where you had no idea whether he was going to put it in or scuff it. And now it's basically the opposite. Now Rashford is the one where when I see him get a... Obviously Rashford's still inconsistent, but between him and Martial, if I see one of them get a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, right now I would have more faith in Rashford being clinical and just slotting that one home than Martial being able to slot something home at the moment. Because he gets some good chances, and he just always ends up hitting it right at the goalkeeper, or is too central where the goalkeeper can still get a hand on it, or he ends up hitting it wide. Obviously in the PSG instance, he ended up hitting it right over the bar, and that helped contribute to our capitulation in the Champions League this year. And for Martial to be a starting number 9 for Manchester United, you have to be a better finisher than this. And I'm not trying to pick on him. I love the guy. I think he has a ton of talent, but whatever's going on with him mentally, whatever his issue is, Ali has to try and find a way to get through to him, and Anthony Martial in his own head has to find a way to get through to himself and figure out what the issue is that's holding him back and get back to the form that he used to have. Because the clinical Martial that used to always slot those chances home, if he was playing in this team, he would have a minimum of 10 to 12 goals right now. But he doesn't. He doesn't even have 5. And I think that's a major issue that we have to still keep our eye on. And I think if it doesn't improve by the end of the season, we have to really start taking a hard look at Martial and saying, well, we see how much we improved in terms of our goal scoring with Cavani in there, just because Cavani can put away his chances, and he's just a more seasoned, experienced striker. He's a poacher in the box, but he also has some flair and some skill to him. And Martial, he has the flair and some skill. He does good in the hold-up play. He can take people on. He can play multiple positions, whether it's on the wing or at striker, but he's not taking advantage of his opportunities, and he's not clinical enough. And for you to be an attacker for a club the size of Manchester United, you have to be finishing more of those chances. And I still have faith in him. I'm not turning my back on him, but it is an issue, and I think we have to revisit this issue in a few weeks' time and see where we're at. But I just thought it was worth addressing because I still think that he needs to improve in that area. Like I said, he does very well in the hold-up play. He does very well in being able to take other players on when he's feeling it. But he has to be feeling it more often in terms of that regard, and he has to just get his confidence in front of goal back. And if we can get those things back, we have a hell of a player with a hell of a lot of talent and still a lot of potential. But he has to get back on the right track, and that's up to Ali and himself to be able to figure that out. And outside of that, Van de Beek as well. I don't think Van de Beek was disappointing today. I just think that Van de Beek is playing in a position where people are expecting him to play like Bruno Fernandes, when that's not Van de Beek's actual style of play. Like, yes, can he play as a number 10? Sure. But he's not an actual number 10, like, by trade. He's not a Mesut Ozil, Bruno Fernandes type of number 10. He's more of a player that can play throughout the midfield. He more reminds me, let me think off the top of my head who I could think of that I would compare Van de Beek to. I had somebody earlier, too, and I just completely forgot it. But he's more of a player that relies on things such as movement and one-touch passing and finding pockets of space more than he is a player that's going to be just whipping like 50-yard diagonal balls out. And It sounded a little bit dirty. I don't know if that's my imagination or not, but he's not good whipping 50-yard balls out. But he's not going to be the guy that's going to be constantly ripping those diagonal passes in behind the defense. He's more of a guy that likes to work off of short passes, get in tight little spaces, give a little nick pass off on a one-touch, put somebody else in the space. And that's useful, especially if you have the style of play that makes the best out of that strength. But I don't think our style of play is as based on that type of play style that Van de Beek is strongest at. So I think that makes him look a little bit more diminished than he would in a team like, let's say, Man City or Ajax that still play that style of football where it's very much tiki-taka, touch and move, little one-touch passes and flicks into space. Ours is a little bit more direct. Ours is a little bit more of creating something in terms of like a freestyle attacking type of way. And I'm not saying that we don't have a plan of attack or that we don't have organization in terms of how we attack, but we are more of a team that likes to get in the space and exploit the space behind and be a little bit more direct and aggressive with how we attack. And I think Bruno fits that, even Pogba fits that a lot more than Van de Beek does in terms of what their strengths are and how they align with our style of play in the attack. But I think Van de Beek still has positives that he really does bring to the team in terms of that quick movement, that cleverness of finding those pockets of space, and the ability to just keep the ball ticking around with one-touch passing, and he doesn't wilt under pressure whatsoever, so he's very good at playing it out from the back. And I think he can be useful in situations like that. So I don't think people who are getting on Van de Beek's back today, I think they're going way too far with that. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of game time to begin with, so you have to give him time to really actually mesh into the squad and build some chemistry with his teammates in live action, not just in training. So, listen, was Van de Beek brilliant today? Was he fantastic today? No. Was Van de Beek good? He was solid. That's what I would say about Van de Beek today. He was solid. He obviously needs to shake off some of the rust. He obviously needs to get more involved in terms of having more game time, building that chemistry, taking a little bit more control of the game, having the confidence to really step up and be the man in midfield if he's going to be the number 10. And I think he has the talent to be able to do that more. But like I said, it's going to take time, and it's going to take some adjustments maybe on Ali's part and some adjustments on Donny Van de Beek's part as well, because he's not the exact same player as a Bruno Fernandes, and he's not the exact same player as a Paul Pogba. So you have to kind of adjust to what your strengths are, and that goes for Ali and Donny Van de Beek. But I do think he's still a very good player. I think he's a good utility midfielder that can play in multiple positions for us, and that he offers a different aspect to what a lot of our other midfielders offer. So a decent game from Van de Beek today. Didn't blow anybody's doors off, but he also wasn't like one of the frauds of the game or one of the schlubs of the game by any means either. I thought he was decent. Like if I were to rate his performance, I would just give him a solid 6. But yeah, I thought Cavani and Bruno helped liven the game up as well when they did come on, just because I think they have very good chemistry together and are always both looking to make things happen, but they're intelligent in how they're trying to make these things happen, and they have the skill and the flair ability to be able to back that up. So I think that made us look a lot more dangerous when those two were actually on the pitch together as well. But overall, in terms of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I thought the fullback substitutions late on were very confusing, but that seems to be an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thing at this point. He seems to constantly go with these fullback subs late in games. Like, it's not all the time, but it's more often, I would say, than most other managers that I've seen, especially at United, because a lot of the times when Tellez is on, he will end up coming off for Shaw at a certain point in time. And in terms of today, we were chasing goals. So the question is, does Ole Gunnar Solskjaer view Luke Shaw as the better option at left back for creating chances and chasing a game, and also the better option for defending and holding on to a lead? Because I'm starting to feel like no matter what the situation is between those two, that Luke Shaw ends up making an appearance late in the game, whether we're chasing the game or whether we're defending the lead. And it makes me think, does he just really think that Luke Shaw is better in both aspects for the team? And I'm not saying that that's unrealistic. I think that's probably actually true at this point. I think a lot of people thought Tellez would be like a level above Luke Shaw in terms of his crossing ability. And don't get me wrong, Tellez is a good crosser of the ball. But I think Luke Shaw has improved drastically in that regard. And his movement and his play and build-up is also fantastic. Sorry about that. Apparently my camera just completely died on me. I'm not 100% sure why, because I had it plugged in, but I guess the plug somehow got loose in it, so it ended up dying. But on Luke Shaw and Alex Tellez point, and listen, I'm just talking in terms of when Luke Shaw comes on, when he starts off the game on the bench. Obviously Luke Shaw starts over Alex Tellez most of the time anyway, but I do seem to notice, even when Alex Tellez starts, that it seems that Luke Shaw comes into the game for him, whether it's chasing the game or whether it's defending the lead. And it doesn't seem like that's the reverse in situations when Luke Shaw starts. It doesn't seem like when Luke Shaw starts that he gets subbed off for Tellez. In any situation, honestly, I don't really remember too many situations where Tellez did come on for Luke Shaw. In like late in the game, whatever, unless it was just like a sub in the final couple of minutes just to maybe see it out if Luke Shaw looked like he took a little bit of a knock or something like that. Yeah, I think Luke Shaw has improved his game so much going forward, and he's been so brilliant defensively that there's no way to justify starting Tellez ahead of him. And whether we're trying to hold on to a game or whether we're trying to come back in a game, I think Luke Shaw's skill set right now and his current form just justify him having to be able to get a crack at it, because he's been one of our best players over the past few months. So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer views Luke Shaw in that great of a regard, where he's like, you know what, if I need somebody to really make a difference in this game, I'm actually going to trust my left back in Luke Shaw to actually affect the game, whether it's going forward or defending. And I think that speaks volumes about what Luke Shaw's been able to accomplish this season and the level of performance that Luke Shaw has consistently put forward for us, whether it's in big games or just a run-of-the-mill game against a mid-table team. And I think Luke Shaw deserves a ton of credit for that. And I thought Alex Tellez did play well today. I didn't think he was brilliant, but I thought he was probably another solid 6 as well. So I'm not knocking Alex Tellez. It's just he's been a good fullback, especially going forward, and he has a lot of talent going forward. But Luke Shaw is just a complete package right now. And in terms of Ollie, though, the Brandon Williams substitution I thought was the more sketchy of the two. I just didn't really understand it at the time, but I guess Wan-Bissaka was actually injured, so that makes more sense. But, yeah, the double fullback thing, I still think that is still a little bit odd to switch both your fullbacks. If one of your fullbacks is an injury, sure, bring somebody on for them. But don't do a double switch at fullback late in the game. I think that's a little bit risky. I think that's peculiar, but at the same time, that does seem to be something in terms of rotating his fullbacks even in game that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer seems more open to than most managers, I would say. So that seems to be part of his agenda in one way or another, that even if Tellez starts, that Luke Shaw will probably sub in at some point, no matter what the situation is. So yeah, in terms of like players like Tellez and Van de Beek, they haven't been amazing when they've come on or when they've started, but they've shown flashes of the talent that they have and what they can contribute to the team. I think it's just more a matter of them getting a consistent run with our team and being able to really put that on paper more often for us. But the problem is the people ahead of them are some of the best players on our entire team, so it's become a lot harder to actually give them significant game time, especially since we've been technically in a title race over the past month or so. So it's made every game a must-win, and I think that's been great for us as fans for the excitement, and great for the starting players because of the excitement and the thrill of being in the hunt for a title. But at the same time, I think it's negatively affected Van de Beek and Tellez in a way where they haven't been able to get the consistent game time that they really would normally probably get because of the importance of getting every single point that we can out of this season. And I guess you could also still make an argument that maybe psychologically that's helped them in a sense too, because it's given them time to settle without having too much pressure on them to come in and perform right away and put out brilliant performances where they're heavily contributing to us winning games. Because if, let's say, Bruno was injured or went through a slump, or same with Luke Shaw, and Luke Shaw does have a checkered injury past, you would say, okay, well, I need Alex Tellez to be going out there and putting out top-line left-back performances every single game, and I need Donny van de Beek to be creating tons of chances in the attack. I think that would put a lot of pressure on them, and that could actually also hamper their development. So there's two different ways where you can look at it, and I think both of them are very reasonable. But overall with Ali, I thought, listen, because of the fact that there is an injury to one of our fullbacks, the fact that we made a double switch at fullback is less peculiar because of that. I still wasn't a huge fan of it, but I understand why he did it. The biggest thing I would criticize him for today was the fact that he didn't have Amad Diallo on at all. I thought he could have subbed Amad Diallo on an extra time, and I thought he could have actually provided a spark. I mean, Amad Diallo is a very quick, speedy player. He has the pace to get in behind, but he also has the flair, dribbling ability to be able to take people on. And I thought, but he also has a little bit of extra look for the creative pass, I think, over Greenwood, who has more of a striker's attitude. So I think you could have actually brought something that would have actually really troubled the West Ham defense if you brought Amad Diallo on. Maybe Ali just feels like, you know what, he's not ready for that type of game. West Ham have been a great team this season. They're defending very well. If we lose this game, we're eliminated. We haven't gotten a goal yet. So I want to put Amad Diallo in a game where we're already up 2-3-0, and he can kind of just run off the back of a defender when the other team has to open up when they're chasing the game, and we can just give Amad Diallo some fun time to actually really exploit a back line and play in a lot of space where he can be more comfortable and the game's not on the line, which I think there is some merit to that reasoning. But at the same time, I think if you think Amad Diallo is a player that can actually make an impact this season at right wing, then I think you have to start integrating him into the team. And today was a day where, despite the fact that we weren't winning the game, it was still 0-0. And I don't think Amad Diallo would have came in. He's not like a center back. It's not going to be on him most likely if we end up giving up a goal. So I thought, just give him a shot. Nobody else has been able to put the ball in the back of the net or create a chance that ended up going into the back of the net. So why not just give him a go and see what he can do? So I was disappointed in that part of it by Ali. I thought overall there was a little bit of a malaise about our team in possession today. We didn't go out there and really attack with the intensity that I would have liked. We didn't create as many chances as I would have liked, especially in the second half. First half wasn't a treat in terms of that, but the second half was even worse. Like I said, I think for the entire second half, for the most part, the only chance I could really remember where I thought we should have scored was when Rashford got that little flick into him in the box, and he ended up basically one-on-one with their goalkeeper, but he ended up hitting it right at him. So overall, if I were to grade Ali out as a manager today, I would say a 5 or a 6. I would probably... We got the win against a good defensive team that's really been streaking this year in West Ham, so I'm going to give him a 6. We still did manage to win a game and keep a clean sheet, but not playing Diallo at all, and also the kind of lack of urgency and motivation that we showed throughout big swaths of that game, I felt, in terms of just lacking the initiative to really go for it and really knock the life out of West Ham. I felt like he still takes some of the blame for that because it's his job to get these players motivated and ready to go before the game. So I think there are some criticisms that you can make of what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did today, but at the same time, I thought he did a good enough job to end up winning the game against a good team that's actually competing for top 4 this year in West Ham, or at least competing for Europa League in terms of West Ham, that have defended very well throughout the season. And we managed to suffocate them in terms of not allowing them to have too many chances at all. The only chance they really got wasn't due to any mistake by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's system or anything like that. It was just our defenders falling asleep and allowing a guy to have an acre of space right in front of our net. Luckily, they didn't capitalize. We capitalized on one of our chances on a beautiful finish from McTominay. And last thing I did want to say, I'm going to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a more favorable 6 over the 5. Like I said, some valid criticisms or tweaks you could have for him today, but overall, we got to win against a good team, so I'll take it. And we live on to advance, and that was mainly our B-side, so you got to give him some credit for that. And last thing, Scott McTominay, beautiful goal. beautiful control in terms of that finish, and you can see how much more confident he is in a position where he's going forward. He's more, I know this sounds like a hot take or a controversial opinion to some people, but Scott McTominay is more of a Paul Pogba in terms of his strengths and in terms of his style of play in midfield than he is a Nemanja Matic. He's not just a holding midfielder that's just good with his positioning and rugged and just keeping the ball ticking around. Scott McTominay is a guy that likes to be a little bit more aggressive, likes to try and find that final pass, likes to be able to charge forward into the box and make those runs. And for him to do that, he has to be in a more box-to-box position, kind of in the position that Pogba normally occupies. But I do think that that box-to-box position is far better for McTominay than the holding position. And in terms of how we're sculpting this team going forward, obviously Matic is pretty old and we're going to have to move him on at some point. So I think we have to start looking at McTominay maybe not as the Matic answer, but maybe more as an answer to filling one of our box-to-box positions, whether Pogba leaves or not. I think either way, you still know that Scott McTominay is going to factor into that position. We're going to have plenty of games, whether it's in Europe, cup competitions, and the Premier League. So you know Scott McTominay, if his stronger position is box-to-box, try and get him into that position as often as possible. And we know we'll be seeing a lot of him there going forward. And I think it's up to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to put him in the position that suits him the most and suits his strengths the most. And that'll give us a better Scott McTominay at the end of the day. But great performance by him today. I still think there are some questions about Fred, especially going forward. Fred is great in terms of the work rate and the ruggedness of his game. And he does bring an added kick into our midfield in terms of winning the ball back and defending. But at the same time, going forward, Fred is just abysmal. And I'm not saying that to be harsh on him. I'm just saying he looks genuinely uncomfortable on the ball. And that's concerning for a player that's starting in a Manchester United midfield. You should, it would be one thing if you were making some mistakes on the ball, but he genuinely just doesn't look that comfortable in possession of the ball at all. He seems to force too many passes. He seems to have a bad touch of the ball where it goes a couple of yards off of him sometimes, and that gets us into a bad position a lot. Actually, let me not say a lot. I don't want to say that he's putting us into a bad position a lot, but it has put us into a bad position at times because of his control of the ball and his technique. So I think throughout the rest of the season, this still is a trial period for Fred to see whether he can actually be the starting defensive midfielder for us or whether we have to replace him. Because right now I think Fred's still trying to make a claim to be the starting CDM and for us to bolster that position in the summer with another guy that can compete. But I think that could change if Fred doesn't improve in that regard to us bringing in a starter at CDM and more relegating Fred to becoming more of a squad player that's just in the rotation. So those are my thoughts on today's game. I'm very happy that we got a win. It's good to get back on a positive track after the way that Everton game ended. And I will be talking to all of you guys tomorrow. I'll be talking about any kind of Manchester United news that's going on, and I'll also be previewing the game for the weekend. So subscribe. Camera stopped recording on me again. I'm going to have to take a peek at this thing afterwards and see what the hell is going on with this because it's really fucking me over today. But yeah, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Most likely you are because the channel is new. This is only my second video, so definitely do subscribe. Definitely keep continuing to give my content a chance. Hopefully you become a big fan and a habitual watcher of the channel. Also share it to any friends who are Manchester United fans or football fans in general. I will be covering other football content in here and giving my opinion on other teams in the Premier League as well. So it's not just Manchester United, but Manchester United is still the overall focus of the channel, considering the fact that I'm a Man United fan. But hey, I appreciate everybody that's watching and that does end up watching. I really do appreciate it if you do subscribe, and I will be talking to all of you tomorrow.